Hello, Lorna, and welcome to the podcast. Hey!
Hi.
How long have you been a vocal coach for?
I think it's about 16 years now.
Wow.
It took a while to build up, and that's when I very, very first started. And then the production started about 10 years ago, maybe.
Right. So it was kind of at the same time that you started doing it, that you kind of got into all the production side of things, and
No, I got into coaching because of all the throat surgery and everything that I had, because my coach was like, "You're really good at this," and I couldn't gig at the time, so I just started coaching some other people.
Right. I was going to ask you this. How did you get into it? So it all started from actually having surgery, did it?
Yeah, I had some cysts on my vocal cords. And,
right.
I was young and stupid, so I sang on them. So they turned into the biggest nodules known to man over about 6 months. But I had those removed and started training this incredible woman. I actually had to have it done twice because they grew back. He said I was just really unlucky, and that yeah. And I retrained with this amazing woman called Maureen Scott. And she started passing a few clients that she didn't have time for to me. And then I was using the front room of my husband's studio. And I've been doing this for a few years. And I met an amazing artist who's actually soon to go into business with my husband because he does something completely different now. But Tom Tyler was making an album with my husband. Right. And I started coaching Tom. And then Tom was just like, could you come to the session and help me out with some of this during the session? So Cam got me in to do the vocal production on Tom's stuff. So I really cut my teeth on Tom, and he's a good friend now, and he was really, really amazing. And I did lots of work with Tom. And then I was coaching in the front room with Tom and various other people, Dan Caplen, who's now, very successful songwriter. And then George Ezra walked in our door. Right. George was working with my husband, heard me working next door, and kind of came to see me. And then they were doing Budapest had already been released, and they were working on the next single for the album, which was Blame It On Me. And they just couldn't get the vocal right. George was getting really stressed about it because the label didn't like it. I think they had 3 or 4 attempts. And so I did vocal production on Blame It On Me for my husband, Cam, Mr. Cam Blackwood. And then the thing is, it's weird the way this world works. Like, you have one hit and suddenly the world wants
snowballs.
It's really strange.
Yeah.
But I would say that's where the vocal production started. It didn't immediately take off from there, but the coaching absolutely boomed from there. Like, as soon as George went number 1, the whole world wanted to be my vocal coach, and it wasn't long before Dua Lipa walked in the door.
Yeah,
we had just signed her record deal at that point.
Right. That, so timeline wise, that makes a lot of sense, because I was doing something around the dairy in Brixton, things like that, and I remember at some point being in a cafe somewhere around Brixton and talking to some person called Dua Lipa, and I remember just being like, that sounds nice. What are you doing? And she's like, I'm recording, and this is hopefully going to happen. And it was literally, I'm talking 10-minute chat in a line waiting for coffee, kind of thing. And I was like, oh, great. Well, good luck, all that stuff.
She's so chatty and so friendly.
And then years later, it was like, oh shit, right. Probably should have got a number.
Yeah, so she probably would have been at my studio that day.
Yeah. And I remember when we first hooked up, and I remember you saying, you were working with Dua and whatever else and stuff. And I was like, that name, and and I remember piecing it together years later, going like, that must have been that girl that Anyway,
yeah, it was. Yeah, she was 18 or just about to turn 19 when I first met her.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Unbelievable. So you basically got into it all then from just having the doctors kind of tell you you've got some problems, and then the rest of it was almost like, the serendipity of, these people walking through the door, and,
I was still gigging when I got the cysts on my vocal cords.
Right.
And I only really, I mean, I still gig occasionally now. I only really stopped gigging full time about 10 years ago. And then it went down to like, maybe I'd do a couple a month.
Do you still do a couple of gigs now and things?
Really, there's one band that I work with, some really good friends of mine, James and Karen, run a function band called Playback, and they're just a really great group of musicians that they live in East Anglia, and they've got a group of musicians around them now that it's all local gigs, you know, and that kind of happened over COVID, that it all just afterwards it got a lot more local, because they used to do London shows like every week. But I still gig for them occasionally just because it's an absolute crack. Like
it's fun, yeah.
It's really fun. And then I do the occasional backing vocal job sometimes, not very often because I don't really have the time to sit and learn it all now.
Yeah.
I've got everybody else's songs to learn. And then I do a bit of my own stuff for a bit of fun. But yeah.
And do you still like, you obviously still enjoy it and you still love like gigging yourself?
I still love it, but I think I've got it out of my system, you know.
Right.
It's like I don't need to gig anymore. I do it when I want to, because I want to, or because I've got an itch to scratch. You know?
I understand.
You'll never stop. We're both singers. You'll never stop anyone being a singer. You know, you could never do another professional job in your life, right?
Yeah.
You'll be a singer till the day you die.
Yeah, completely. So it's just like in your blood, isn't it then? Yeah. How like what?
I'd love to blow my own pipes. Let's go do it.
Have you ever told anyone, you know, like like at the side of the stage mid show that they're doing it wrong or anything like that, or you know, or is it like, you know, a totally supportive?
I'm on a show.
Yeah. When like, I don't know, you're at the side of the stage at a George Ezra gig or something. George, what are you doing? You know, singing it like this. And we went through this.
So Tom, that I used to work with, Tom Tyler, he used to have this thing about, I need you to be, can you just stand at the back of the room centre, just because he used to get really, really nervous.
Right.
Like, just looking at you. But then like there's other people, you know, that like they invite me along to a show, or maybe it's their London show. And it's that typical thing of like Dan Caplen always says to me, yeah, Lorna's coming. Shit, Lorna's coming. He said, you know, every single hair that could be out of place, you know, maybe nobody else wouldn't. Nobody else would rather. But no, I tend to, when I'm at a show for one of my artists, I step away. I do warm up with them. And then I guess I'm always the first opinion people want after a show, because they know that I'll tell them if it wasn't very good. and obviously you're an authority with the technical know-how as well. It's not like you're just going, I didn't like your voice, is it? It's like you're there with the technical knowledge to have gone. No, I've generally been a part of the build-ups, the live performance, and so I know what the artist is wanting to achieve that night.
Yeah.
So like, I work with Mimi Webb and Ellie Goulding, and there's always a build up to a big live performance with those two, you know, and there's training that's involved in that. And then there'll be certain points of the show, and the first thing they want to know is like, how was it? It felt good. How was it? And I'm like, yes, it was great. But then they know if they didn't smash it.
Yeah. Well, I know, you know, it's like when you know you've not smashed it out of the park, you just feel it, don't you? It's like and they must feel the same. You must feel like really proud of them when they go out and they do like a really big show or something. And you're thinking, oh, I taught them to do that. That must be a great moment.
I am so insanely proud of my artists.
Yeah.
I get really emotional, and I just get really joyful when, like, I always say, like, so Tom Walker, for instance, what Tom's done with what I've shown him is incredible. You know, like, he came to me and said, I just want to be the best singer I can be. And he's a phenomenal singer.
Yeah.
He can get through a really heavy tour schedule now and just not.
And breeze it.
Yeah, just absolutely breeze it. And he said to me after, I think it was, we've been working together about a year, and he did his first really big tour with a series length of set.
Yeah.
He just said to me at the London show, which was the last show, he just went, I'm better now than when I started. like 12 weeks ago. And I was like, great.
Yeah,
that's
great.
exactly how you want to be. You want to be stronger from singing correctly every day.
That's it. Who, you know, is there anyone that you know, like I say, you're proud of all your students, but is there anyone that in particular that you kind of go, they for me have like really smashed the not because they've got a naturally good voice or whatever, but is there anyone in particular where you think like where they started was like there and then you've brought them up to here and you feel like they've really like learned a lot in the journey? You know, is there anyone that you think comes to mind?
Tom Walker, definitely. He's just learned so much because he's just someone who has really taken on the technique just tenfold. He really, really has just gone for it.
Yeah.
Mimi Webb.
Right. Interesting.
Mimi was not in a good way health-wise when I first met her because she was just very young and she'd been asked to sing a lot, like a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
Tired and she wasn't doing it right. And it was a bit damaged is a serious word. It wasn't, it wasn't in a bad way like that, but it
you
was
get tired. Yeah.
It was not in a strong place.
Right.
And, when you say that to her, it's difficult when you say that to a 17-year-old girl, who's just at the start of something very, very exciting.
Exciting career. Yeah. Yeah.
She took it on the chin and just went, right, well, how do we fix it? And Mimi's voice is sensational.
Yeah.
Like, I have other singers come to watch Mimi and go,
like, wow. Yeah.
Municipality came to her London show with me and just went, her voice is incredible. I was like, yes, it is. And it's because she puts in the work.
Yeah.
I can only do so much. I can only just say, well, here's how to do it. Let's practice.
Yeah.
But you're only seeing me once a week if you're lucky. And if you're a jobbing artist and if your career's going well, you definitely don't have the time to see me more than once a week.
Yeah.
Probably once a month, know?
Yeah.
Then you have to do the practice yourself. You have to squeeze it in here and there, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Make sure you do 3 workouts a week. Make sure you're doing a cool down. Make sure you're doing a warm up every night,
How much then would you say, just how much would you say is vital then to like hone your musical technique and, and all that stuff, is because we both know singers where they just go out on the stage and they blag it and they like sink a bottle of wine and then just go, I'll just crack on, like the Mick Jaggers of the day or something, or how much of it would you? It's not possible anymore. So,
I think like you saying the Mick Jaggers of the day, that's so it. Like it's not possible because the touring schedule is now not the only thing on their plate.
Completely. Yeah.
It's promo all day, phoners in the morning,
radio, TikTok. Never
off Instagram and TikTok. It's really hard. So I think that's why it's not possible to be a wild child and have a long career anymore. Most go teetotal when they hit the road and they would be like, well, I've got the day off tomorrow, so I'll have 2 wines. Woo-hoo. Yeah. But I think it's just necessary.
Do you know what? I remember I was with a friend and we went to Brixton Academy to see Tom Walker, and we were on the crew, and I got chatting to Tom backstage, and he was saying, I was saying, what are you doing now, mate? What are you doing? And he was, I'm probably just going to take it easy, and just like have some good rest. And, and you're thinking like like Mick Fleetwood and all that stuff, they would have just been like, right, I'm going to just hit the hardcore stuff now for days.
On that, like, you did have 2 wines and go home, bless him.
Bless him. That is, you're right though. I find that more and more, the more people I talk to about that, like that is definitely the state of play. How with the performance side of things, how much of that would you say is riding on their own sense of identity? Do you find that, it's important for an artist to know who they are before they can start singing and, getting on with it? And
I mean, I think generally in a first album campaign, especially with really young artists or artists that are new to the music industry, there is an element of self-discovery. But I also think that's very beautiful for their fans to watch.
Yeah.
I work with Callum Scott, who is one of the finest singers I have ever heard in my life. Like, pipes of dreams. That, you know, his voice is just stunning.
You should write an album called Pipes of Dreams.
I call them Velvet Pipes. We have a laugh about velvet pipes today. But he is, and I think that, you know, Callum's music has shown such growth the way that he has as well. You know, coming from a talent contest back, like he won Britain's Got Talent.
Yeah.
I didn't actually know that when he walked in my door, because I don't watch talent contests. I have a veto on them because
okay.
the worst kind of exposure. But it worked out well for Cal because he signed a great deal, you know, and he's got a great team, and well, he's just a super talent. He really, really is.
Yeah.
But Callum's someone who, you know, he's gone from, when you watch the early performances of him, a nervous soul on the stage, to somebody who just absolutely owns it.
Yeah.
And I think that is because, you know, he's developed.
He knows who he is, and he's been through that.
Yeah.
He's been through that process. It's so, you're right. Like, especially in the early days, you don't have a clue who you are, because there's that many people, labels and managers and lawyers and all sorts, just kind of just going, go here, do this, sing this, try this, and go, you know, and it's like so difficult for them. It must be interesting how they must just like finish a gig or a tour or something and just kind of go, fuck it, I'll just, this is who I am. I'm just doing this now, you know. I
mean, I still don't know who I am. Don't know about you, Ben.
Oh no, never knew. How important then is it to build an online presence then? You know, if you're like a new artist or something like that, how important would you say, based on your experience?
You know what? I see so much of it, and I still don't think I even know the half of it. All I say is, thank God it's not me that has to do. You know? When I post something on Instagram, it's generally because I either want to help someone out, or I'm really proud of something, or I'm just documenting my holiday because my mates are asking if I'm having a nice time. I have it easy, and
you do a lot of cat pics and and food pics as well, I've noticed.
I love a food pic. Yeah, that's because that's my love from music is food and wine. But I think it's really difficult, and from what I've seen, if you want to have a successful career these days, you do have to be excellent at the online presence. And some people are really gifted at it, and some people have to like really try. And some people have teams that do it for them, and other people don't.
I was going to ask you about that. You know, even at the sort of, you know, the level of George Ezra, you know, is it just an entirely, you know, from what you see, like he's in the studio with you or whatever, is that him talking on Instagram, or is that like, oh, I'll pass that to a team, or, you know, it's like, to what extent is that ratio?
With most major label artists that are charting, I think there has to be a mixture, because there's some, let's face it, it's on the same Instagram account that, you know, they're larking around in the studio with someone. It's in the same Instagram account that they're taking a photograph of something stupid they see in the supermarket.
Yeah.
But then it's also the same Instagram account where the information about the tour and the album release and all that has to go out. So I think there's a mixture.
Yeah.
And I think there reaches a point where the onslaught of what comes back from the internet is so difficult that the artist has to write off, and the label have to take over with input from the artist.
Yeah. I have a few experiences of myself and friends who've really been at the like sort of a negative receiving end of that. Not even you know, not in the sense of like trolling or anything, just the avalanche of messages that you get, and then the kind of the demands and things like that. It's really interesting. It'd be interesting to talk on another podcast about that, because I think it's like important to discuss. But it's
always fun to check other messages when you're feeling up for a laugh.
Yeah, right.
I'll be shocked.
Yeah, I know, right.
I don't check other messages, because you just never know what's in there.
Never know. Do you think like, so that's part of the business, to be able to to just accept that, look, if you're going to do this and be in the music business, you've got to have social media and things like that and be able to rock it. How much do you think some of the younger artists and things that you work with, how much of them understand the music business, or do they come in as a blank canvas and go, just teach me to sing, Lorna, I don't know, or and I don't know any of this, or do you think a lot of them come in and they're quite savvy with the way the strategy is, or
how they came to it, to be honest,
right?
The management, if they have been managed for a long time before they were signed.
Yeah.
And I think there's some people that latch onto the business side of things really, really well.
Right.
I think there's some that just leave it to other people. Yeah.
Do you think it matters either way?
I honestly don't know. I think it's good to always be the master of your own destiny.
Yeah. That's always what I think personally. Yeah.
Yeah. Always know what's going on. Always know why. And always know what's being asked of you and why you might need to say yes or why you might need to say no. I think also knowing that you're allowed to say no and that your team work for you is a really good thing to know as a young artist.
Yeah. And not that you're getting fucked over, basically. Yeah.
Management take 20% or whatever they take because they're working for you. They work for you. Yeah. You pay them. It's in their interest to work hard for you because the more you earn, the more they earn.
Yeah, of course.
And then you need to know when to say, no, I'm not doing that, because even though you're offering me a squazillion bucks to do it, it makes me look stupid or cheap, or you got to know. I think you got to know where you're going in life, what you want from a certain situation.
Yeah, definitely.
How you are perceived by, because let's face it, your public now exist before you try. Like, I'd never forget going to I think one of my first experiences of like how prolific you can be on the internet now was going to a Maisie Peters gig at what's the little one at London Bridge? Is it O'Meara?
Yeah, O'Meara. Yeah.
Lovely venue, right? But it's one of the small venues that you play early doors, Yeah.
And it's actually quite big.
It is quite big, but it's the right vibe.
It's the right vibe, yeah.
Also, because it's got that lower bit at the front, you can just feel the front bit if you want.
Yeah. And the back of the room you don't really see. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, to start with, it was packed to the rafters. And Maisie her and her manager had done a couple of releases, but she hadn't released on Atlantic since she'd signed with them. So this is going back to her first record deal. It was packed, and they knew every single word to every single song.
Wow.
Even though some of these songs weren't released, and that's because they've been played on people's phones on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like that, as somebody, in their 40s who was unaware that kids are listening to other people's YouTube content or Facebook or TikTok or Instagram content to learn the songs for the next time they go to the gig because they haven't been released yet.
That's mental. That is mental. Yeah. Tell me about what is your process with, what when you're doing some of the recording side of things, like what tips do you have, or what what's part of the Lorna way?
My ethos is to get the best source material possible from the artist before any post-production happens.
Right.
We have the technology, we can tune stuff, we can time it. I haven't found a computer that can inject the right emotion yet.
Yeah.
And I haven't found a program that could, make you cry or make you smile.
Yeah.
So it's really about experimenting with different types of direction with an artist. So whether they need dramatic direction, textural direction, or sometimes technical direction, which is where my coaching comes in really handy in the studio.
Right.
And I think because I've been a singer myself for a long time, I know how it feels on the other side of the glass. So, like, you can just have your ego balloon popped in a second by the wrong thing said over the talk back.
Sure. And the expectation in that scenario is massive, isn't it? You know, people are paying money for it. And
realize that.
Yeah. Have you ever had any real horror stories in the studio where that kind of thing's happened? Or
when I'm recording, no. Like when I'm behind the desk, no. I don't think so. I've had people get upset, but that's because you've got to tread a very careful tightrope to get the emotion right, I think. And outstanding lives right next to vulnerable and terrified.
Yeah.
So there's a careful line to walk. I've had people get upset when they're singing songs about grief and things like that.
Yeah.
But in general, you just need to get that out and then move forward.
Yeah.
I've had a disaster myself in the studio. But
nice. Nice.
in a day's work, all in a day's work.
It's part of it. Yeah. Yeah.
It is part of the rich tapestry of what makes us who we are.
And there's always wine, isn't there? You know, if it goes really, really, really badly, you know, like
it's just always wine.
What like as part of the record, do you think the likes of TikTok, social media and all that, and like the commitment that you've got to do, and the fact that, you know, music's very much it's got to be fast commodity now. It's not something that's like, you know, like songs. I mean, I receive briefs sometimes and it's like the lyrics must come in within the first three seconds, and the chorus has to be within the first 4 seconds. And, you know, and I actually see that on the brief. Because later down the line the music's going to be released on some platform. Do you think, in your experience, that like songwriters that you work with, do you think that they are writing in a specific way to accommodate that? Or do you think music's evolved into a very particular funnel because of technology effectively?
I think it has changed a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think the way people sing has been affected by it.
Right.
Really?
In what way?
Kind of freaks me out. And I don't know why, but I generally hear it more in female voices than male voices.
Okay.
And that might be because of the style of a lot of pop vocals over the years. But I hear young girls who actually sound like they've been auto-tuned.
Really? As in when they sing, they sound like the auto-tune.
So long mimicking the likes of, you know, well, whoever. I shall name names. But they've spent so long mimicking it.
Right.
That actual kind of switch up in the voice is actually audible.
That's gross.
Really weird. It's really, really weird. And also people, I have to explain to young singers that a lot of those white noise delays and whoosh into a vocal and back out of a vocal are not created by the vocalist. They're not there. It's the type of reverb that they've used. It's the compressor. It's an effect.
Yeah.
And then you have people that say, I'll just do a simple exercise with them that I've asked them to do, like, I don't know, like something like a ooh, and instead of a vocal tone like that, you get ooh, ooh. I'm like, well, to start with, you're going to knacker yourself.
Yeah.
Too much air, too much friction, far too abrasive. And also, you must be exhausted.
I would be.
Train effects into your voice.
Yeah.
You can. It will definitely cause you problems.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of technology has made its way into the way people sing. I think it's definitely, well, like everyone is like a huge jigsaw puzzle of all their favorite
favorite stuff that they listen to. Yeah.
And things have got, I think, less and less real over the years.
Right. Interesting.
It's going back the other way now. I think people are starting to get a bit bored with technology.
Interesting. I would agree with that. And I think there's loads of bands and things that are coming back with really like organic sounding. I mean, not just bands, solo artists as well, but like they're coming back with sounds even and lyric ideas that are totally like, that's not new, but it's a nod to the past. That's kind of like, we did that once, you know, and that's a cool thing.
Yeah, with their lyrics, which is really nice. I've just worked on a new album by a rock band. I don't know if I'm allowed to speak about it yet because they've not done the first teaser yet, but it's lyrically poetic.
Right.
Really hard rock.
Yeah.
And it's a real like mixed construct of organic instruments and synthesizers and like everything's in there.
That's mental.
Yeah. This is
What kind of advice or anything do you reckon you might have with regard to like being resilient or combating like nervousness and anxiety on stage?
On stage?
Yeah, on stage, yeah.
Okay, so I think an enormous amount of confidence comes out of succeeding a few times. So remember that getting up on stage is not who you are. It's your job. You are an entertainer.
Interesting.
People have paid to be entertained by your songs. They think, they're your fans. I'm sure they think you're fantastic. But at the end of the day, they want to hear you songs that they paid money for, that they paid their streaming subscription for, that they downloaded, that they want to see in person the vinyl that they love listening to on a Sunday morning, or, it's, so you've got to remember that. And I think once something isn't all about you, it becomes a lot easier. We're all very good at coming through for other people. I think it's coming through for ourselves that as humans in general, we're quite bad at. So I think remember who you're singing for. You're singing for everyone that paid to hear you, that might have saved up,
Yeah.
And I think that really is quite a soothing thought. It certainly is for me. And also the thing I said about succeeding, right? If you've done your practice and you can do something, and then you get out on the stage and you do it for other people and it goes well, that's another little, chalk on the board to say, I can do this. I did this. I did it last time and I'll do it again now. Yeah. Because I love it. I absolutely love it. And I love doing it for other people.
That's a great thought. Yeah. It's not about me. It's not about,
Yeah. So psychologically, that's a calming thought. Obviously, breathing exercises, it comes from breathing exercises, being strong in your body, particularly when you're on the road. Your voice lives inside your body. So if your body isn't well, your voice won't be well. I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah.
Look after you, look after your body, and in turn, you're looking after your voice. Then your voice gets out on stage, sings like a motherfucker, and you feel better about you, and the positive cycle begins.
Yeah. That's great advice. That's really, really great advice. I totally agree with you as well. I think, just kind of dealing with, seeing it as a, you're right. It isn't about just you, is it? There's so many variables and people and things involved in it. And ultimately, if it's too much, like go and work in a post office, I suppose, isn't it?
Exactly.
Like you want this,
Yeah, it's only you that knows what it feels like.
Yeah.
The audience knows what it feels like. They just know what it sounds like, looks like.
Yeah.
So you've got to on that, I think. And, you know, for anyone who's had coaching from me, Mr. Ben Hughes, naming no name, anchoring does wonders.
So I've heard. I feel like I should have said that like that as well with one finger. You know, just we'll have to do that in the pub and just talk about anchoring. You know what I mean?
All the time, even in the pub. You know this.
All right. So just to kind of, you know, wrap it all up for us and everything. What kind of would you? I know there's a hell of a lot to kind of, you know, to say, to take in, to do, and all kinds of things. What would your, you know, sort of overall wrap it up summary, nice little bow version of events be in terms of just like a bit of advice, a bit of, you know, tips or whatever for people who are wanting to get into singing professionally and, you know, go about doing all the things that they dream of, all the stuff, you know, getting signed and things like that, you know, but like, you know, you as a vocal coach and a performer and all this kind of stuff, what's your sort of overall advice for getting started and getting into that and trying to smash it out of the park?
I think my mum always said one thing to me growing up, and that was, did you do your best? And I said, yeah, I think so. She went, well, then that's all you can do. But my advice is always do your best. Always, always do your best. Leave no stone unturned. And if you think there's more to be done that you didn't do, be brave enough to say, I've not finished. I really, really think we can get that better. Or I really, really think for next time, I need another day's rehearsal. Or I really, really think I should have had a day's rest before that.
Yeah.
You know, grow as an artist, as a person in every direction. Always do your best, but know when there were things that didn't allow you to do your best. And make those changes yourself. Yeah.
Excellent. You looked like you were like, is that right? Is that okay? How ironic. Lorna, thank you so much for doing this. I really, really appreciate it. And you know, it's so lovely to talk to Elle after all this time. It's been like it's been like 5 years or something.